Her husband whispered to the doctor, "Let her die," but she heard everything. "What happens next will shock you." Welcome to Tales by Felix, where every story unlocks a new world. Remember to subscribe, like and share. Let's begin. The rain came down in sheets, a relentless curtain blurring the headlights of the silver sedan as it snaked along the coastal highway. Emily Harper gripped the steering wheel, her knuckles white, her eyes darting between the road and the dashboard clock. 8:47 p.m. She was late for dinner with her husband, Nathan, again. He'd been distant lately, his usual warmth replaced by a cold edge she couldn't quite place. Tonight, she'd promised to make it up to him, a quiet dinner, just the two of them, to rekindle what felt like a fading spark. "Almost there," she muttered to herself, squinting through the windshield. The wipers squeaked rhythmically, barely keeping up with the storm. Her phone buzzed in the passenger seat, Nathan's name lighting up the screen. She reached for it, just a glance, but the road curved sharply. Too sharp. The world spun. Tires screeched, metal crumpled, and glass shattered in a deafening cacophony. Emily's scream was swallowed by the impact as the car slammed into the guardrail, teetering on the edge of the cliff before tumbling into the darkness below. When she came to, there was no sound. No rain, no screeching tires, no heartbeat in her ears. Just a void. Her body felt like it was encased in cement, heavy and unresponsive. She couldn't open her eyes, couldn't move her fingers, couldn't scream. But she could hear. The faint beep of machines, the sterile hum of a hospital room, and voices, low, urgent, unfamiliar. "She's stable, but critical," a man's voice said, clipped and professional. "A doctor. We've done all we can for now. It's a miracle she survived the crash." Emily's mind clawed through the fog. "I'm alive. I'm here." But her body betrayed her, silent and still. She tried to scream, to signal she was awake, but nothing came. Panic surged, a silent storm trapped inside her skull. Another voice cut through, softer, familiar. "Nathan. How long, doctor? How long until, you know?" His tone was strange, not grief-stricken, but impatient. "We can't say," the doctor replied. "Her vitals are weak, but she's fighting. It could be days, weeks." "Or never," Nathan interrupted, his voice barely above a whisper. "She's suffered enough, hasn't she?" Emily's heart would have stopped if it could. "Nathan. What are you saying?" The ICU smelled of antiseptic and despair, a sterile prison where time seemed to blur. Emily lay motionless, a prisoner in her own body, as the machines beeped a steady rhythm. She couldn't see the tubes snaking into her arms or the bandages wrapping her head, but she felt their weight, their intrusion. Her mind, though, was sharp, clinging to every sound, every word. Nathan visited often, his footsteps heavy and deliberate. She'd always loved the sound of his approach, confident, steady, like he could carry the world for her. Now, it filled her with dread. He'd sit by her bed, silent for long stretches, then speak in a low, rehearsed tone. "I'm here, Em," he'd say, his voice dripping with false warmth. "I'm not going anywhere." But today was different. The doctor was there, his clipboard rustling as he checked her chart. Nathan's chair creaked as he leaned closer, his voice dropping to a whisper so soft it was meant for no one but the doctor. "Let her go, doctor," he said, each word a blade. "She's suffered enough." Emily's mind screamed. "No. Nathan, no. I'm here. I'm alive." But her lips stayed sealed, her body a traitor. The doctor hesitated, his pen pausing mid-scratch. "Mr. Harper, we don't make those decisions lightly," he said carefully. "She's still showing brain activity. There's a chance. A chance." Nathan's voice hardened, though he kept it low. "You said yourself it's unlikely she'll wake up. Why prolong this? For her? Or for me?" The doctor cleared his throat, uncomfortable. "We'll monitor her closely. If there's no improvement in a few days, we can discuss options." Nathan didn't respond, but Emily could almost feel his satisfaction, like a cold shadow passing over her. The door clicked shut as the doctor left, and Nathan's hand brushed her arm, his touch devoid of warmth. "Soon, Em," he whispered, so close she could feel his breath on her cheek. "It'll all be over soon." Her mind reeled. "Why, Nathan? Why do you want me gone? The man she'd loved for 7 years, the man she'd built a life with, was praying for her death. And she was powerless to stop him. Days bled into nights, marked only by the changing voices of nurses and the rhythmic beep of the heart monitor. Emily's world was a prison of sound and sensation. She couldn't move, couldn't speak, but her mind was a wildfire, burning through memories, questions, and fear. Every word she overheard was a puzzle piece, and she was desperate to fit them together. Nathan's visits grew more frequent, but so did his agitation. She heard him pacing, muttering to himself, his phone buzzing with calls he'd answer in hushed tones. "Yeah, it's almost done," he said one night, his voice muffled as if he'd stepped into the hallway. "The doctor's on board. Just a few more days." On board? Emily's thoughts spun. On board for what? She strained to hear more, but his voice faded, swallowed by the hum of the hospital. Her mind drifted to their life together. The late-night talks, the vacations to the coast, the way Nathan's laugh used to light up a room. But there were cracks she'd ignored, his late nights at the office, the unexplained withdrawals from their joint account, the way he'd snap when she asked too many questions. How did I miss this? Then, a new sound broke her thoughts, a soft clatter, like a tray being set down. A woman's voice, gentle but firm, filled the room. "All right, Emily, let's check those vitals," the nurse said. Her name was Clara, Emily had learned from the chatter. Clara's hands were careful, her touch a stark contrast to Nathan's cold grip. "You're a fighter, aren't you? Hang in there, sweetheart." Emily wanted to cry out, to beg Clara for help, but her body refused. Then, something shifted. A faint twitch in her right index finger, so subtle it might have been nothing. But Clara noticed. "Did you move?" Clara's voice was a whisper, laced with hope. She leaned closer, her breath warm against Emily's ear. "If you can hear me, try again." Just a little twitch. Emily focused every ounce of will, pouring it into her finger. It twitched again, stronger this time. Clara gasped softly. "Oh my God," she murmured. "You're in there, aren't you?" For the first time since the crash, Emily felt a spark of hope. Someone knew. Someone cared. But then Nathan's footsteps returned, and Clara fell silent, her movements quick and deliberate as she adjusted the monitors. "Don't you worry," Clara whispered, so low only Emily could hear. "I'm watching him." Clara became Emily's lifeline, her quiet ally in a world of shadows. She was young, maybe late 20s, with a voice that carried both kindness and steel. Emily clung to her presence, the only thing keeping her tethered to hope. Clara's shifts were long, and she spent extra time at Emily's bedside, checking monitors, adjusting blankets, and talking softly when no one else was around. "You're going to pull through this," Clara would say, her voice a soothing balm. "I've seen miracles before, Emily. You're one of them." But Clara wasn't blind to Nathan. Emily heard the way her tone shifted when he entered the room, guarded, professional, but laced with suspicion. She'd noticed things Emily couldn't see, the way Nathan always asked for privacy, the way he'd linger near the security camera in the corner, his fingers brushing the plug as if testing whether it could be pulled. One night, Clara lingered after her shift, her footsteps soft as she approached Emily's bed. "I don't trust him," she whispered, her voice barely audible. "He's too calm. Like he's waiting for something." Emily's mind raced. Clara knows. She sees it too. She wanted to scream, to tell Clara everything she'd heard, but all she could manage was another faint twitch of her finger. Clara's hand squeezed hers gently. "I saw that," Clara said, her voice trembling with excitement. "Keep fighting, Emily. I'm going to figure this out." The next day, Clara's suspicions deepened. Emily heard her speaking to another nurse in the hallway, their voices low but urgent. "He unplugged the camera again," Clara said. "Second time this week. Said it was an accident, but I don't buy it." "Careful, Clara," the other nurse warned. "He's her husband. You can't just accuse him of something without proof." "I'm not accusing," Clara snapped. "I'm observing. And I'm telling you, something's off." Emily's heart pounded. At least, it felt like it did. Clara was piecing it together, but Nathan was clever. Too clever. If he suspected Clara was onto him, what would he do to her? The air in the ICU felt heavier that evening. charged with a tension Emily could sense even in her silent prison. Nathan's footsteps were joined by another set, sharp, deliberate, like expensive shoes on polished floors. A new voice, smooth and practiced, filled the room. "Everything's in order, Mr. Harper," the man said. "The life insurance policy is airtight. Once it's finalized, the payout will be substantial." Emily's blood ran cold. Life insurance? Her mind flashed to their last conversation about finances, months ago. Nathan had insisted on increasing her policy, claiming it was for their future. "Just in case," he'd said with that charming smile. She'd signed the papers without a second thought. "Power of attorney is next," the man continued. "If she's incapacitated, you'll have full control of her assets. Her savings, the house, everything." Nathan's voice was steady, almost smug. "Good. I want this done quickly. No loose ends." The man, Emily assumed he was a lawyer, hesitated. "There's one thing." Her sister called the office. "She's asking questions about the will. Says Emily would never have left everything to you alone." Nathan's tone sharpened. "Her sister's a nobody. She doesn't know anything. Can you handle it?" "Of course," the lawyer said, but there was a flicker of unease in his voice. "Just keep me posted on her condition." The door clicked shut, and Nathan was alone with her again. Emily felt his presence, looming like a storm cloud. He leaned close, his breath hot against her ear. "You should have listened, Em," he whispered. "You always trusted too much." Her mind screamed, a torrent of rage and betrayal. "Why, Nathan? What did I do to deserve this?" She thought of their wedding vows, the promises he'd made under a starlit sky. Had it all been a lie? And what was this about her sister? Emily hadn't spoken to Rachel in years, not since their falling out. But if Rachel was asking questions, maybe there was hope. Clara returned later that night, her footsteps hurried. "I heard them," she whispered, her voice trembling with anger. "The lawyer. The insurance. Emily, I don't know what he's planning, but I'm not letting him get away with it." Emily's finger twitched again, stronger this time. Clara gasped, her hand tightening around Emily's. "That's it, Emily. Keep fighting. I'm going to get proof. I promise." As Clara's footsteps faded, Emily's mind churned. Nathan was moving fast, weaving a web of deceit she couldn't escape. But Clara was her lifeline, her eyes and ears in a world she couldn't see. And somewhere, deep inside, Emily felt a spark ignite, a will to survive, to fight, to make Nathan pay for what he'd done. Emily's mind was her only refuge, a flickering cinema screen playing memories she could no longer trust. Trapped in the silent prison of her body, she drifted through the years with Nathan, searching for the moment everything changed. The ICU's sterile hum faded as her thoughts pulled her back to a sun-drenched afternoon 7 years ago, the day they met. Nathan had been charming, all easy smiles and warm hazel eyes, offering to carry her groceries when her bag split on a crowded sidewalk. "Looks like fate's trying to tell us something," he'd said, his grin disarming. She'd laughed, blushing, and let him walk her home. That was the Nathan she fell for, the one who left handwritten notes on her pillow, who danced with her in their tiny apartment kitchen, who promised forever under a blanket of stars. But as the memories unspooled, darker threads emerged. The late nights he'd blamed on work, his phone always locked, the way he'd bristle when she asked about his past. "You don't need to know every detail, Em," he'd said once, his tone sharp enough to cut. She'd brushed it off, chalking it up to stress. Now, lying in the ICU, those moments felt like warnings she'd ignored. A specific memory surfaced, sharp and painful. 6 months ago, over dinner, she'd mentioned a strange bank statement, $20,000 withdrawn from their savings. Nathan's fork froze midair. "It's for a business deal," he'd said, his voice too smooth. "Don't worry about it." She'd pressed, her accountant's instincts kicking in, but he'd stood abruptly, slamming his glass down. "Stop interrogating me, Emily. Can't you just trust me?" She had. God help her, she had. But now, his whispered words to the doctor, "Let her go, she's suffered enough," echoed in her mind, tainting every memory. Had he ever loved her, or was she just a piece in some twisted game? The door creaked, snapping her back to the present. Nathan's footsteps, slow and deliberate, approached her bed. "You're still hanging on, aren't you?" he murmured, his voice laced with something like resentment. "Why can't you just let go, Em? Make this easy for both of us." Her mind screamed, "Because I heard you, you bastard. I know what you're doing." But her body remained still, betraying her rage. Nathan's phone buzzed, and he stepped away to answer, his voice low but clear. "Yeah, it's under control," he said. "The paperwork's ready. Once she's gone, we're set. No more waiting." A pause, then a chuckle. "Trust me, she's not waking up." Emily's thoughts churned. Who's we? What paperwork? The pieces were falling into place, but the puzzle was still incomplete. She clung to one thought, Clara. The nurse who saw her twitches, who suspected Nathan's lies. Clara was her only hope. Clara moved with purpose, her sneakers squeaking softly against the linoleum as she entered the ICU. Emily had memorized her rhythm, quick, confident, a stark contrast to Nathan's predatory tread. Today, Clara's hands lingered longer as she adjusted the four, her touch gentle but deliberate. "You're still with me, aren't you, Emily?" Clara whispered, her voice barely audible over the heart monitor's beep. "I saw your finger move again yesterday. Keep fighting, okay? I'm not giving up on you." Emily poured every ounce of will into her right hand, desperate to signal she was there. Her index finger twitched, then curled slightly, a small victory. Clara's breath caught, and Emily felt the nurse's hand tighten around hers. "That's it," Clara said, her voice trembling with excitement. "I knew it. You're awake in there." But then, a new sensation. A warmth on her cheek, a single tear slipping from her closed eye. Emily hadn't realized she could cry, but the betrayal, the fear, the rage, it was too much to contain. Clara noticed immediately. "Oh, Emily," she whispered, her voice thick with emotion. "You're crying. You can hear everything, can't you?" She dabbed the tear away with a tissue, her movements careful. "Don't worry. I'm keeping a record. Every time he comes in, every word he says. We're going to get him." Clara's words were a lifeline, but danger lurked in them too. If Nathan realized Clara was watching him, what would he do? Emily's mind flashed to a news story she'd read years ago, a nurse attacked for interfering in a patient's care. The thought sent a chill through her, even in her motionless state. Later that night, Clara returned, her footsteps quieter, more cautious. "I checked his visitor log," she whispered, as if afraid the walls could hear. "He's been coming in at odd hours, always when the cameras are off for maintenance. And yesterday, I caught him staring at your 4-line. Like he was planning something." Emily's heart would have raced if it could. "He's going to kill me. He's not waiting for me to die naturally." She tried to move again, to show Clara she understood, but her body was sluggish, the effort exhausting. "I'm starting a journal," Clara continued, her voice fierce. "Every detail, every suspicion. If he tries anything, I'll have proof. You just keep fighting, Emily. I've got your back." As Clara left, Emily clung to her promise. The tear had been a breakthrough, a crack in the prison of her body. But Nathan was closing in, and time was running out. The ICU was quieter at night, the hum of machines a constant lullaby. But Emily's mind was anything but calm. Nathan's visits had grown more frequent, his agitation palpable. Tonight, he arrived late, his voice clipped as he spoke into his phone, pacing near her bed. "I called them today," he said, his tone impatient. "The insurance company. They said the payout's ready as soon as it's official." A pause, then a bitter laugh. "Yeah, $2 million. Enough to start over. No more scraping by, no more pretending." Emily's thoughts reeled. $2 million. That was far more than the policy she remembered signing. Had he forged her signature again? Her mind flashed to the bank withdrawal, the $20,000 he'd dismissed so easily. Was that part of this too? Nathan's pacing stopped, and she felt his presence loom closer. "You were supposed to be my ticket out, Em," he muttered, his voice dripping with disdain. "But you just keep hanging on, don't you? Stubborn as always." The door opened, cutting him off. Clara's voice, calm but firm, broke the silence. Mr. Harper, it's late. Visiting hours ended an hour ago. Nathan's tone shifted, smooth and charming. Just needed a moment with my wife, Clara. You understand. Of course, Clara said, but Emily could hear the suspicion in her voice. I need to check her vitals now. You can come back tomorrow. Nathan hesitated, then left without another word. Emily wanted to scream, to thank Clara for interrupting. But the fear lingered. Nathan was getting bolder, and the insurance call confirmed his motive. He wasn't just hoping for her death. He was counting on it. Clara lingered after Nathan's footsteps faded. I heard him, she whispered. The insurance call. Emily, I don't know how he's planning to pull this off, but I'm not letting him. I've got an idea, but it's risky. Just keep fighting, okay? Emily's finger twitched again, stronger this time. Clara's hand squeezed hers, a silent pact forged in the dim light of the ICU. Clara was a woman on a mission, her every move calculated. Emily could sense it in the way she worked, quick, precise, her whispers laced with determination. Tonight, she arrived during a quiet shift, her footsteps softer than usual, as if she were avoiding attention. I'm doing something crazy, Emily, Clara whispered, her voice trembling with both fear and resolve. I brought my old phone. It's got a camera, and I'm hiding it in the vent above your bed. If he tries anything, we'll have proof. Emily's mind raced. A camera. It was brilliant, but dangerous. If Nathan found it, Clara could lose her job, or worse. Emily tried to signal her approval, her finger curling slightly. Clara noticed, her breath hitching. Good girl, she said, her voice warm. I knew you'd be with me on this. Emily heard the faint clatter of Clara climbing onto a chair, the soft scrape of the vent cover being removed. It's set to record whenever there's motion, Clara whispered. He won't know it's there. I'll check the footage every shift. The next day, Nathan returned, his mood darker than usual. Emily heard him pacing, muttering under his breath. This is taking too long, he said, his voice low and venomous. I can't keep waiting, Em. I've got plans. Big plans. He stopped near her bed, and Emily felt a chill as his fingers brushed the foreline. Maybe a little help, he murmured, almost to himself. Just to speed things up. The door opened, and Clara's voice cut through like a blade. Everything okay, Mr. Harper? Nathan's hand jerked away. Just checking on her, he said, his charm snapping back into place. You're always here, Clara. Don't you ever sleep? Clara laughed, but it was forced. Part of the job. Let's get you some coffee, huh? Give Emily some rest. When Nathan was gone, Clara checked the vent. It recorded everything, she whispered, her voice shaking. He was touching your fore, Emily. Smirking, like he was proud of himself. I've got him now. Emily's mind buzzed with hope and fear. The camera was a game-changer, but Nathan was unraveling. If he suspected he was being watched, he'd lash out. And Clara was in his crosshairs. The ICU felt different that afternoon, the air charged with an unfamiliar energy. Emily heard a new voice, female, sharp, insistent, arguing with a nurse at the desk outside her room. I need to see Emily Harper, the woman said. I'm a friend. Please, it's urgent. She's in critical condition, the nurse replied, her tone firm. Only family can visit. I am family, the woman snapped. Check the records. My name's Sarah Klein. Emily's mind jolted. Sarah Klein. She didn't know anyone by that name, but the urgency in the woman's voice felt personal, like she carried a secret too heavy to hold. Clara intervened, her voice calm but curious. I'll handle this, Clara said. Ma'am, can you tell me why you're here? Sarah lowered her voice, but Emily's heightened senses caught every word. I was married to Nathan Harper. Years ago. He told everyone I disappeared, but I didn't. I ran. And now I hear he's married to her, and she's... like this? I need to know she's okay. Emily's thoughts spiraled. Nathan's ex-wife? He'd told her his first marriage ended amicably, that his ex had moved abroad. Another lie. Her mind flashed to his whispered phone calls, his talk of no loose ends. Was Sarah one of those loose ends? Clara's voice was cautious. She's stable, but critical. Why do you think Nathan's involved? Sarah hesitated. Because he tried to kill me too, she said, her voice breaking. I have proof. Documents, emails. I just need to see her. Clara didn't respond immediately, but Emily heard her scribbling something. Give me your contact info, Clara said. I'll call you. But you can't see her yet. Not until we know more. When Sarah left, Clara slipped back into the room, her breath unsteady. Emily, this is bigger than I thought, she whispered. Nathan's ex-wife? Saying he tried to kill her? I'm digging deeper, but we have to be careful. He's dangerous. Emily's finger twitched, her silent plea for Clara to keep going. Sarah's arrival was a bombshell, a crack in Nathan's carefully constructed facade. But it also raised the stakes. If Nathan learned Sarah was back, he'd move faster. Emily had to wake up, had to fight, before he silenced them all. The ICU was a battlefield, silent but charged with unseen wars. Emily Harper lay at its center, her body a traitor, her mind a fortress. Every sound was a weapon, Nathan's footsteps, his whispered threats, the beep of machines keeping her tethered to life. Tonight, the air felt heavier, as if the room itself held its breath. Clara's shifts had become erratic, her presence a constant vigil. Emily could sense the nurse's exhaustion, the way her sneakers dragged slightly, but her resolve never wavered. Clara had become more than a caregiver. She was a soldier in Emily's fight, armed with a hidden camera and a journal of Nathan's every move. It was past midnight when Nathan slipped into the room, his footsteps softer than usual, deliberate. Emily's heightened senses caught the faint rustle of fabric, the click of a penlight. He was close, too close. Her skin prickled as she felt his fingers brush the 4-line taped to her arm. Just a little something to help you sleep, he murmured, his voice a sickening blend of calm and malice. No need to drag this out, Em. Emily's mind screamed. He's poisoning me. Her heart, if it could, would have pounded through her chest. She heard the faint clink of glass, a vial, and the soft snap of a syringe. Panic surged, but her body refused to obey, locked in its silent prison. The door creaked, and Clara's voice sliced through the darkness. Mr. Harper? What are you doing? Nathan's hand jerked away, the syringe clattering to the floor. Jesus, Clara, you scared me, he said, his charm snapping into place like a mask. Just adjusting her for. The line looked kinked. Clara's tone was ice. That's not your job. And that's not saline in your hand. A tense silence followed, thick with unspoken accusations. Emily could imagine Nathan's eyes narrowing, calculating. It's pain medication, he said smoothly. The doctor prescribed it. Check the chart. I will, Clara said, her voice steady but laced with suspicion. Step away from her, please. Nathan's footsteps retreated, but his parting words lingered like a threat. You're too involved, Clara. Be careful. When he was gone, Clara's hands moved quickly, checking the 4-line. He's lying, she whispered, her voice trembling with anger. That wasn't pain medication. I'm replacing the whole line, Emily. And I'm sending that syringe to the lab. If he's trying to kill you, I'll prove it. Emily's finger twitched, a desperate signal of gratitude. Clara's hand squeezed hers, a silent vow. I've got you, she said. He's not getting away with this. But as Clara worked, Emily's thoughts churned. Nathan was escalating, no longer content to wait for her to die. The syringe was proof of his intent, but it also meant he was desperate. And desperate men were dangerous, not just to her, but to Clara. Days blurred into a haze of beeps and whispers, but something was changing. Emily felt it, a faint spark in her limbs, like a current flickering to life. Her right hand, once limited to twitches, now curled into a weak fist. Her toes, stiff for weeks, began to flex. It was slow, agonizing, but it was progress. She was waking up. Clara noticed immediately. During a quiet afternoon shift, she leaned close, her voice a mix of hope and urgency. Emily, can you move your hand again? Show me. Emily focused, pouring every ounce of will into her fingers. They curled, stronger this time, and Clara gasped. Oh my God, you're doing it. You're coming back. But Clara's excitement was tempered by fear. "We have to keep this secret," she whispered. "If Nathan knows you're waking up, he'll do something worse. I sent the syringe to a friend at the lab. It's not pain medication, it's a sedative, a lethal dose if it had gone through." Emily's mind reeled. A lethal dose. Nathan wasn't just hoping for her death, he was engineering it. The thought fueled her resolve, a fire burning through the fog of her condition. She had to wake up, had to stop him before he hurt Clara or anyone else. Clara's voice dropped lower. "I checked the camera footage from last night. He was back, Emily. After I caught him with a syringe, he came back at 3 a.m. He didn't touch the 4, but he was looking at the monitors, like he was figuring out how to turn them off. We're running out of time." Emily's toes curled again, a silent promise to herself. "I'm not dying, Nathan. Not like this." Clara's hand rested on hers, warm and steady. "You're stronger than he thinks," she said. "We're going to beat him. Together." But the weight of Nathan's presence lingered. Emily could still hear his voice, his chilling words. "Be careful, Clara." The nurse was risking everything, and Emily knew the cost of defiance could be deadly. The ICU was a pressure cooker, every moment simmering with tension. Emily's small movements, her fingers, her toes, were victories, but they were also a ticking clock. Nathan's visits grew erratic, his agitation seeping into every word. Clara, meanwhile, was relentless, her journal now a thick catalogue of his suspicious behavior. One evening, Clara slipped into the room, her voice barely above a whisper. "I found something, Emily. Something big." She paused, as if weighing the risk of what she was about to say. "I followed Nathan after he left last night. He went to a bar, met someone. A woman. I recognized her from a photo in your chart, your best friend, Lauren." Emily's mind fractured. Lauren. Her college roommate, her confidant, the woman who'd been at their wedding, laughing and toasting their love. The betrayal cut deeper than Nathan's whispers, a knife twisting in her gut. She wanted to scream, to demand answers, but all she could manage was a faint tremble in her hand. Clara continued, her voice tight with anger. They were close. Too close. Kissing in his car, like they didn't care who saw. And Lauren, she was driving a new BMW, Emily. Paid in cash, according to a friend at the dealership. Where'd she get that kind of money? Emily's thoughts spiraled. The $20,000 withdrawal. It wasn't for a business deal. It was for Lauren. Her best friend and her husband, plotting together while she lay helpless. The pieces clicked into place. Nathan's late nights, Lauren's sudden distance, the way she dodged Emily's calls in recent months. I took pictures, Clara said, her voice fierce. They're on my phone, time-stamped. If he's using her to cover his tracks, we'll nail them both. But we have to be smart, Emily. He's watching me now. I can feel it. Emily's fingers curled tighter, a silent vow of rage. Lauren, how could you? The betrayal was a fire, fueling her will to fight. She wasn't just surviving for herself anymore. She was surviving to expose them, to make them pay. Clara's hand squeezed hers. You're getting stronger every day, she said. Keep going. We're so close. But as Clara left, Emily's thoughts darkened. Nathan and Lauren were a united front, and Clara was a lone warrior. The stakes were higher than ever, and Emily knew one thing for certain. Nathan wouldn't stop until she was gone. The hospital buzzed with its usual chaos, but in Emily's room, the tension was a living thing. Clara had become her eyes, her ears, her sword, but every move she made brought her closer to Nathan's crosshairs. Today, a new voice entered the fray, a hospital administrator, her tone clipped and formal. Clara, we need to talk, the woman said, her heels clicking as she entered the room. There's an issue with Mrs. Harper's paperwork. Emily's mind sharpened. Paperwork. She strained to listen, her senses attuned to every nuance. What kind of issue? Clara asked, her voice guarded. The administrator hesitated. Her will. Mr. Harper submitted a copy, but our legal team flagged it. The signature doesn't match the one on her medical consent forms. And her sister, Rachel, called yesterday, claiming the real will is in a safe at Emily's house. Emily's thoughts raced. Rachel. Her estranged sister, the one person Nathan had dismissed as a nobody. If Rachel was involved, it meant she suspected something too. And the will, Emily remembered drafting it 2 years ago, leaving half her assets to charity and the rest to Rachel, not Nathan. Had he forged it to cut her sister out? Clara's voice was steady, but Emily could hear the excitement beneath it. So, the will he submitted is fake? We're not saying that, the administrator said cautiously. But it's suspicious. We've notified the police, and they're looking into it. There's also a report of a break-in at Mrs. Harper's house last week. Someone tried to access her safe. Emily's mind flashed to Nathan's muttered words. No loose ends. He'd tried to get the real will, to destroy the evidence that contradicted his plans. Her fingers twitched, stronger now, a silent cry of defiance. I'll keep an eye on him, Clara said, her tone resolute. He's been off. I don't trust him. Be careful, Clara, the administrator warned. This is above your pay grade. Let the police handle it. When the administrator left, Clara leaned close to Emily. This is it, Emily, she whispered. The forged will, the break-in, it's all coming apart. I'm meeting Sarah Klein tonight. She says she has documents tying Nathan to her own accident years ago. We're building a case. Emily's toes curled, a surge of hope mingling with fear. Clara was closing in, but Nathan was a predator, and predators fought hardest when cornered. Nathan's mask was flawless, a performance worthy of an Oscar. Emily couldn't see the television mounted in the ICU, but she heard it, the volume low but clear. A local news anchor's voice filled the room, somber and practiced. Tonight, we speak with Nathan Harper, whose wife, Emily, remains in a coma after a tragic car accident. Nathan, tell us about your wife. Nathan's voice was a masterclass in grief, trembling just enough to sound sincere. She's my everything, he said, his words thick with emotion. I just want her to wake up. I love her so much. Emily's mind roared. Liar. She could imagine him dabbing his eyes, his face a portrait of devotion. The nurses in the hall murmured sympathetically, but Clara's silence was deafening. Emily felt her presence, hovering near the bed, her anger a tangible force. The anchor pressed on. There's been speculation about the accident. Some say it wasn't an accident at all. What do you say to that? Nathan's voice cracked, perfectly timed. It's cruel. People don't understand what we're going through. I just want my wife back. The television clicked off, and Clara's voice was a low growl. He's good, I'll give him that, she whispered. But I'm better. I recorded the whole thing, Emily. Every fake tear, every lie. And I checked the camera footage from last night. He was back again, tampering with your chart. I'm sending everything to the police. Emily's fingers curled into a fist, her strongest movement yet. Clara noticed, her breath catching. You heard him, didn't you? She said. You're ready to fight. Good. Because I'm meeting the detective tomorrow. We're setting a trap. Emily's thoughts burned with purpose. Nathan's performance was a desperate bid to control the narrative, but Clara was unraveling it. The forged will, the syringe, the affair with Lauren, Sarah's accusations, it was all converging. Emily wasn't just fighting for her life now, she was fighting for justice. And as Clara's hand squeezed hers, she knew one thing, Nathan's mask was about to shatter. The ICU was a cocoon of sterile light and rhythmic beeps, but for Emily Harper, it was a battlefield where every twitch was a victory. Her body was no longer a prison but a fortress under siege, and she was fighting to reclaim it. Over the past days, her movements had grown stronger, fingers curling into fists, toes flexing with purpose, and now, a faint flutter behind her eyelids. She could feel the world pulling her back, and she was ready to answer. Clara, her unwavering ally, noticed the change during a quiet midnight shift. The nurse leaned close, her breath warm against Emily's ear. Emily, can you open your eyes? Just try. I know you're in there. Emily focused, channeling every ounce of will into the muscles around her eyes. It was like lifting a boulder, but the darkness parted, a sliver of light breaking through. Her eyelids fluttered, then opened, revealing Clara's wide, tear-filled eyes staring back. Oh my God, Clara whispered, her voice trembling with awe. You did it. You're awake. Emily's vision was blurry, the world a haze of white walls and blinking monitors, but Clara's face was a beacon. She tried to speak, but her throat was dry, her voice a faint rasp. "And Nathan," she croaked, the single word a blade. Clara's hand tightened around hers. "Don't talk yet. Save your strength. He doesn't know, and we're keeping it that way. I've got a plan, Emily, but we have to be careful. He's getting reckless." Emily's eyes darted to the vent where Clara's hidden camera was tucked away. The nurse followed her gaze and nodded. "It's still recording," she whispered. "Every word, every move. We've got enough to bury him, but we need him to slip up, big time." The door creaked, and Clara's posture stiffened. A nurse's aide poked her head in, oblivious to the miracle unfolding. "Clara, you're needed at the desk." "Be right there," Clara said, her voice calm but her eyes fierce. She leaned close to Emily, her whisper urgent. "Close your eyes. Pretend you're still out. We can't let anyone know yet, not until we're ready." Emily obeyed, her eyelids sinking shut, but her mind was ablaze. She was awake, alive, and for the first time, she felt in control. Nathan thought he'd won, but she was about to turn his game against him. As Clara's footsteps faded, Emily vowed, "You're going down, Nathan." The hospital hummed with its usual chaos, but in Emily's room, a quiet conspiracy was taking shape. Clara had enlisted a detective, a grizzled man named Torres, whose voice carried the weight of someone who'd seen too much. Emily, eyes closed to maintain the ruse, listened as Clara and Torres whispered near her bed. "We've got the syringe results," Torres said, his voice low and gravelly. "It was a sedative, enough to stop her heart in minutes. Your instincts were right, Clara. He's trying to kill her." Clara's voice was steady, but Emily could hear the anger beneath it. "And the will. The footage." "The will's a fake," Torres confirmed. "We've got a warrant to search Harper's house for the real one. The camera footage shows him tampering with her and muttering about the insurance payout. It's damning, but we need a confession, something airtight." Emily's fingers twitched under the blanket, a silent signal she was listening. Clara noticed, her voice softening. "She's stronger every day, detective. I think she can help us." Torres hesitated. "You're saying she's awake?" "Not fully," Clara lied, protecting Emily's secret. "But she's responsive. If we stage something, make him think she's gone, he might talk." Torres grunted, considering. "A sting. Risky, but it could work. We tell him she passed, bring him in to say goodbye. If he confesses, we've got him." Emily's mind raced. A sting. It was dangerous, but it was their best shot. She focused, willing her fingers to move again, a faint curl to show her agreement. Clara's hand squeezed hers, a silent pact. That night, Clara prepped the room. "We're doing this tomorrow," she whispered to Emily. "Torres will be watching through the camera. I'll tell Nathan you flatlined during my shift. You just stay still, keep your eyes closed, and listen. We'll get him." Emily's heart, now stronger, thudded with anticipation. The plan was bold, but Nathan was arrogant. He'd fall for it, she was sure. As Clara adjusted her monitors, Emily's thoughts burned with purpose. "This is it, Nathan. Your lies end here." The ICU was staged like a theater, every detail meticulously planned. Emily lay still, her breathing shallow, her eyes closed, as Clara and Torres set the trap. The heart monitor was silenced, its screen dark to sell the lie. The hidden camera in the vent hummed softly, ready to capture Nathan's downfall. Clara's voice trembled as she called Nathan, her performance flawless. "Mr. Harper, it's Clara. I'm so sorry. Emily's gone. She flatlined an hour ago. Can you come to the hospital? To say goodbye?" Nathan's response was a masterclass in feigned grief. No, that can't be," he said, his voice cracking just enough. "I'll be right there." Emily waited, her body still but her mind a storm. She heard his footsteps 30 minutes later, heavier than usual, as if victory weighed him down. He entered the room alone, the door clicking shut behind him. She felt his presence, a shadow looming over her bed, and then his breath, hot and close. "It's over, Em," he whispered, his voice dripping with relief. You fought hard, but I won. The insurance is mine, the house, everything. Lauren and we're free now. No more pretending, no more you." Emily's blood boiled, but she stayed still, her eyes shut tight. "Keep talking, you bastard." Every word was a nail in his coffin, recorded for the world to hear. Nathan chuckled, a low, cruel sound. "You were so easy to fool," he said. "The car crash was perfect. Nobody suspected a thing. And that nurse, Clara? She's next if she keeps poking around." The door opened, and Clara's voice cut through, sharp and controlled. "Mr. Harper, you're needed at the desk to sign some paperwork." Nathan froze, his breath hitching. "Right. Of course," he said, his charm snapping back into place. As his footsteps faded, Emily's fingers curled into a fist. He'd confessed everything. The crash wasn't an accident. He'd tried to kill her, and now he was threatening Clara. But they had him, and Emily was ready to rise. The room was silent except for the faint hum of the camera, still recording. Emily's heart pounded, her body no longer a prison but a weapon. Clara slipped back in, her voice a whisper of triumph. "We got him, Emily. Every word. Torres is reviewing the footage now. But we're not done yet." Emily opened her eyes, the world sharper now, her vision clear. Clara's face was a mix of relief and determination. "Can you sit up?" she asked. "We need to show him you're alive. It'll break him." Emily nodded, her movements slow but deliberate. With Clara's help, she sat up, her muscles trembling but holding. She swung her legs over the bed, her bare feet touching the cold floor. It was the first time she'd moved in weeks, and it felt like reclaiming her life. Torres entered, his face grim but satisfied. "The confession's solid," he said. "We've got him on attempted murder, fraud, and conspiracy. But if you confront him, Emily, it'll seal the deal. He'll crack completely." Clara handed Emily a hospital gown, helping her stand. "You ready?" she asked. Emily's voice was hoarse but strong. "Let's end this." They waited in the hallway, hidden behind a curtain, as Nathan returned. He strode into the room, expecting a corpse, but froze when the door opened again. Emily stepped forward, her eyes burning into his. "Hello, Nathan," she said, her voice steady despite the tremor in her legs. His face drained of color, his mouth opening and closing like a fish. Emily, you're alive." "Surprised," she said, stepping closer. "I heard everything. The crash, the insurance, Lauren. You tried to kill me." Nurses and Torres emerged from the shadows, their presence a silent threat. Nathan's eyes darted, searching for an escape, but there was none. "You don't understand," he stammered. "I was just—" "Save it," Torres snapped, cuffs glinting in his hand. "You're under arrest." As Nathan was led away, his protests echoing, Emily leaned against Clara, exhaustion and triumph warring within her. She'd won, but the cost was etched into her soul. The hospital room, once a prison of beeps and shadows, now felt like a sanctuary. Sunlight streamed through the window, casting golden streaks across the linoleum floor. Emily sat on the edge of her bed, her legs stronger each day, her voice steadier. The tubes and monitors were gone, replaced by a simple bandage on her arm and a fire in her heart. She was no longer the woman who'd trusted blindly, who'd ignored the red flags. She was a survivor, forged in betrayal and tempered by resilience. Clara sat beside her, her nurse's scrubs swapped for a soft sweater, her shift long over but her presence unwavering. "You're a miracle, you know that?" Clara said, her voice warm but tinged with awe. "I've seen patients fight, but you're something else." Emily managed a small smile, her first in weeks. "I had help," she said, her voice still raspy but clear. "You saved me, Clara. Not just my life, but me." Clara's eyes glistened, and she squeezed Emily's hand. "You saved yourself. I just gave you a push." The past week had been a whirlwind. Nathan's arrest had made headlines, his confession, captured by Clara's hidden camera, played on every news channel. The police had searched their home, finding the real will in Emily's safe, untouched by Nathan's clumsy break-in attempt. It named her sister, Rachel, and a local women's shelter as beneficiaries, a stark contrast to the forged document that would have funneled everything to Nathan and Lauren. Lauren. The name still stung, a wound that would take time to heal. She'd vanished after Nathan's arrest, leaving behind the shiny new BMW and a trail of unanswered questions. Emily didn't care to chase her. Lauren's betrayal was a ghost she'd learned to live with, but not dwell on. Torres had visited earlier, his gruff demeanor softened by respect. Harper's facing multiple charges, he'd said, leaning against the doorframe. Attempted murder, fraud, conspiracy. The DA's pushing for life. And we found evidence tying him to the car crash, tampered brake lines. He's not talking his way out of this. Emily had nodded, her jaw tight. What about the insurance company? They're cooperating, Torres said. The $2 million policy he tried to cash? It's frozen. You're safe now. Safe. The word felt foreign, but Emily clung to it. She turned to Clara now, her voice steady. What happens next? For you, You risked everything. Clara shrugged, a faint blush coloring her cheeks. I'm taking a vacation, she said. Somewhere warm, with no beeping monitors. But first, I'm testifying at Nathan's trial. I want to see him squirm. Emily laughed, a sound that felt like breaking chains. I'll be there too, she said. I want him to see me standing. The door opened, and Rachel stepped in, her eyes red-rimmed but bright. The sisters hadn't spoken in years, their bond fractured by old arguments, but Rachel's calls to the hospital had sparked the investigation into the forged will. Now, she stood hesitantly, a bouquet of lilies in her hands. Rachel said, her voice breaking. I'm so sorry. I should have been here sooner. Emily reached out, her hand trembling but strong. You're here now, she said. That's enough. They embraced, the years of distance melting away. Clara slipped out quietly, giving them space, but Emily caught her eye, a silent promise to stay in touch. Rachel sat beside her, and they talked, about the past, the future, the pain they'd both carried. It wasn't a full healing, but it was a start. Days later, Emily was discharged, her steps slow but sure as she left the hospital. The air outside was crisp, the world vibrant in a way she'd forgotten. Clara walked beside her, her arm a steady support. Where to now? Clara asked. Emily looked at the horizon, the sun rising over the city. Home, she said. But not his home. Mine. I'm starting over. Clara grinned. Good. And if you need a friend to help you unpack, you know where to find me. As they walked to the car, Emily felt the weight of Nathan's betrayal lift, replaced by something new, hope. She'd survived his lies, his poison, his greed. She'd reclaimed her life, not just from the crash but from the shadows he'd cast over it. The scars would remain, but so would her strength. And as the sun warmed her face, Emily Harper knew one thing for certain: she was free. The end.